What do you think you're doing, Mr. Paget? Learn about AI, talking to some teachers. In this old classroom, I'm searching for the spark. Computers hum softly, lighting up the dark. Questions in my mind, code up on the screen. Learning how to teach a machine to dream.
Good morning and welcome to AGI Schools Out, where we are talking to the people who are educating our students in our society one lesson at a time. My guest today is Kimba Rund with Career Plus Pathways at SkyPack. Kimba is the first guest that we've had on both shows, I think there's a good reason for that. You're doing some amazing work. Plus, I think people probably want to hear more from young people and hear how they're approaching AI. I always said in the last episode, I think you were in episode 19, I said, when you said you had ChatGPT open all day, like, you won me over right there. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, some of the recent things that you've been working on, what Manufacturing Week was like, and then let's dive into AI.
Yeah, so my name's Kimba Rund, like you said. I'm the Work-Based Learning Coordinator and Career Scholarship Manager with Career Plus Pathways. So I've been really busy building this semester's round of skills boot camps for our students that helps them meet graduation requirements and gives them kind of a glimpse into multiple different industries and all the things that they could do within that industry. It's a great skill building day for them. We've also been really pushing and working towards a new model of work-based learning called micro-internships that you are helping us develop one as well. And so a way to scale and expand work-based learning across the state. And so we've got a group of about 4 to 5 partners that are helping us pilot that model. So we've been really busy working with our schools and our employer partners. Manufacturing Week was amazing. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend in person, but I know our students got to go on lots of great tours of manufacturers across our community and see what opportunities are available right in their backyard.
That is awesome. And you are also in school right now for Industrial and Organizational Design Masters at Purdue Global. Is that correct?
Yes, I am getting my master's in Industrial and Organizational Psychology. And I actually will be 100% done and complete as of this next Tuesday. So very excited to be done with that.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing, Kimba. How old are you? Am I okay asking that?
Yeah, that's okay. I actually just turned 23 last Monday.
Wow, that's very accomplished. You got your master's. You're inspiring other young people. I admire everything you do. And you got married recently, so you got a lot going on.
I did. Yes, it's been a very busy summer into fall, but it's been really good, and yeah, thank you.
Are you a fan of fall?
Yes, I love fall. It's my favorite season personally. I've been ready for the burr months.
Yeah. I think people in Indiana, if you were to take a poll, I think fall would just barely beat spring as their favorite season. A lot of people seem to love fall.
Yeah, we love our cornfields and hay rides during the fall, that's for sure.
If you would have asked me when I was a kid, I would have said winter, but it doesn't snow here that much anymore. We just kind of have a miserable winter. It's like dreary England weather and then cold in February and March, but I do like snow. I'm not always...
I can't
Yeah.
lie. I grew up in Texas, so I'm not a snow fan.
You are definitely not alone in that either. So Manufacturing Week, you weren't personally there, but you helped design a lot of it, and I'm sure were involved. How much artificial intelligence and machine learning was woven through the fabric of Manufacturing Week?
Honestly, I don't know too closely for sure, but I'd imagine it helped a lot with the process of putting it all together. And I hope and know that it was included in some of the stations. Is that something that is making its way into manufacturing, and that they want students to be aware of as they're exploring it as a career path.
Wise advice. Why don't we talk about those micro internships that you're doing, and the one that I'm helping you guys with, which is really, or the two actually, one around marketing and one around developing custom GPTs to assist boots on the ground behavioral health peer recovery coaches with their job.
Yeah, so I'll speak to to the concepts itself of work-based learning, and I'll leave you to give the details of AI and how that's integrating into it as the expert. But right now we're developing two different experiences for our high school students, one of which is a one-day skills boot camp, like I talked about earlier, where students are going to be learning about all the ways that AI can be used in marketing. So students will be making a custom GPT, kind of going through the design process to figure out how to do that best and how to test and iterate and make changes to their product. And similarly with the micro internship we're developing, which will be a 2-month experience for students that they'll complete virtually. They'll be doing something similar, but creating a custom GPT for those peer recovery coaches.
Yeah, and you're too kind when you say my part in it, because if I had a company, I would hire you and Maddie, because I love to come up with the ideas and have some of the vision, and then have some people who are just amazing executors, and you guys have definitely been that. But I do know I love some of the back and forth that we've had. One of which I think is a mind shift that we need to start making with students when it comes to content creation, which is, in the future, your role will probably evolve more to an editorial role. And by that I mean you will have access to a team of AI agents or AI tools that are more than capable, if well developed, to generate content and mass produce content in your company or brand's tone, voice, and style. But AI doesn't have good human taste, and so as the editor, you become more the person who's going through and selecting which of those pieces are right to put out to the world. You're tweaking them here and there. And this is a part that I love about AI. If you look at historically, like newspapers or any place that has an editor, like, the editor doesn't never write. The editor has the option to write when they feel strongly about something. So just because I'm leveraging an AI tool to generate our newsletter, or to write our emails, or to write social media posts, doesn't mean if I get a wild idea on a Sunday and I decide I want to write the newsletter, that anything's stopping me from doing that. It just means that I'm not bound by that time commitment on an ongoing basis, and maybe I can find some higher functioning things to do with my time other than just crank out marketing media.
For sure.
Yeah. And then the second part of the thing that we started to explore, which is the one pat I get myself on the back, because we started talking about it before it started trending, but this whole idea of how do we start to generate evals, and how do we teach these kids how to evaluate tools so that they're actually producing the outcomes that they're looking for. And I think that comes from, and we're going to get into like that whole attention retention thing, but we are still seeing that a lot of these foundation models are following the evil pathway of social media, with like their reward functions being how much can I keep you on this stream, or how much can I keep you engaged. And some of that is positive feedback and telling you what you want to hear, but let's say you're assuming that editor role in marketing, right? And you're using AI to get feedback to help you brainstorm on what pieces are good and what pieces are bad. If it's always telling you everything's good because it thinks that's what you want to hear, that is not going to be effective for business, and that is not going to reach your market, your target audience, at best. So you really want to be able to figure out, like, how do we leverage these tools in a way that is going to give us the feedback we're looking for. How do we define metrics for success, and then how do we figure out which tool is giving us best those metrics for success, or how do we generate prompts that will encourage the model to work more in that manner.
I think that's something that our high school students definitely need to be thinking about, not only in this context, but in AI use in general. Just the idea of thinking of checking its work. That's not happening a lot, and so I think that'll be a great way to get them thinking about that, and hopefully start integrating it into their daily AI use.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Even and I've said this before, like, as the tools get better, it is easier to become kind of unskeptical of them, which I don't think is a healthy working relationship with them. But just for instance, like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but with doing deep research, like a year and a half ago when that first came out, I would check all the links, because a lot of times they were broken links and it just made stuff up. But as it's gotten way better, like I find myself checking those links a lot less, which is it's really better to keep the habits of, hey, let's make sure that this thing's sourcing material right and not hallucinating, because you never know. The one little tweak with a model can cause it to go off the rails for a month, and now you're relying on something that's not very efficient.
Yeah, that is one thing I've noticed as well. I use it in research a lot too for my schoolwork, and it used to give me a lot of broken links or articles that didn't really exist. But it's been a lot better about it, and one thing that I do with it typically is when I'm researching is I specifically ask for credible, scholarly, peer-reviewed sources from certain journals, and I think that's helped a lot too in getting rid of those fake links.
Yes, yes, and I think that's the whole idea of context engineering that was never clearly articulated. This or prompt engineering, where you're giving it a role. It's not really about giving it a role. It's about refining what its sources are, right? So rather than you saying like you're an editor in chief or you're a collegiate researcher, which would hopefully refine it to those articles you're looking for, you're specifically saying only use articles that are peer reviewed, or whatever domain you want it to come from, and that does really refine the RAG and give you a lot better answers. And another thing that I've heard people say, and I haven't tried this yet, so shame on me, but is to say, like, give me a couple of direct quotes out of the resource that you pulled from, so that they can go back and check and make sure that those actually exist in the resource.
I haven't tried that either, but I have. It's interesting to have it try and give you the correct citation for sources. That has helped me catch a lot of fake articles as well, because if you can't find all the pieces of information for a reference, you probably don't have a real source.
Yeah, 100%. So you love it for research. What are some of your top uses? Do you use it for entertainment at all? Do you use AI for entertainment at all?
I do. I use it for personal use a lot. Honestly, I've been using it a lot more than I was previously for personal use. But it's a pretty good sounding board. Um, I've been really trying to train my personal ChatGPT to not be too empathetic towards me and to be a little bit more pushy towards what I think. And it's been interesting to use it kind of more in a personal way about life questions, things that I have going on, or just its opinion on maybe like an issue personally with a friend. And that it's had a lot of use for me out of that as well.
Yeah, that whole give me critical feedback is like the new muscle that I'm trying to build. I remember when one of the muscles I originally had to build with AI was like just ask AI before you. Like I would sit and try to figure out how to do something with AI or what approach I should have, and then I finally realized like, well, just start with a simple question and start brainstorming with it, and you'll tease it out a lot better than turning your wheels forever before you go in. Like it doesn't have to be a perfected idea. And now my new one, like you, is like, okay, let's make sure that I ask it to critique this before I decide that this was a great idea, because it is amazing the feedback. I love how it's like, okay, well, if you want me to come from that angle, here are some things that I think, and I'm like, okay, now we just got real. All
It's
those.
funny to see it switch up from its original response to, oh, you want me to give you the truth now? Okay.
Yes, yes, and they all frame that a little differently. I enjoy Claude. I think Claude is probably the best thought partner out there. I mean, I use ChatGPT nonstop. It is definitely my go-to tool. But if I really want to dive into a philosophy, or I'm feeling a little nerdy, I will go into Claude and start talking to it. And every once in a while, I'll be like, "Is that really how you feel, or is that just that sycophantic reward function that we discussed?" And it's like, "Okay, you caught me. I'm not sure how you expect me to get around that if it's really in my programming, which it probably is."
So tell me, what is it about Claude that you like more than ChatGPT? I haven't used it very much, but I see it on TikTok and other people using it.
Claude, so there's several things that I use Claude for. Initially, I use Claude, like I'm developing a website for this podcast on HubSpot. So I'll just take screenshots as I go through that and have Claude walk me through it. I think because Claude was initially, in my mind's eye, code was what it excelled at. It is probably the best at figuring out how to use a computer and talk to computers. So if I have a problem on the computer, I like to screen share it with Claude and ask it how to help me get through that. But when they released Claude 4.0, and now they're at 4.5, and it seems to maintain consistency, I actually find Claude writes the absolute best. Like I don't have to I don't have to change it much at all for it to sound like it's a human. Now it doesn't have all the context, and that's a moat that some of these are going to start to build. Right, is my ChatGPT account has so much of my information that oftentimes I'll start there to say, okay, write a blog post about this from my perspective, and then I'll take it to Claude and say, what do you think about this, and expand on it. And the next thing you know, like you have one hell of a good blog post that you really can't tell was AI generated, and it's got my ideas all woven in its DNA, but it's been expanded upon by something that's better at articulating itself than I am, and I'm not a bad writer at all.
Yeah, that's interesting. ChatGPT has gotten better at writing with their new release, but the M dashes still drive me crazy, and their
Yeah.
overuse of the words emphasize and highlight.
And it's not just about this; it's about that. Like there are some of those things that I find very annoying and can't seem to train out of it, and it fluctuates. So does their image generator. Like I find both ChatGPT and the new Nano Banana. Like one day they'll do something that astonishes me. Like I'll say, take these two pictures, put them together, like make this background behind these two people. And one day the Gemini Flash 2.5 or AKA Nano Banana will do that absolutely perfectly. The next day it just like puts the background and then puts the picture as like a little square and it sucks. And ChatGPT will be just the opposite. Character consistency I find with ChatGPT is not always good. Like if I take a picture of me and you and say, put us on a beach in the Bahamas, like I might look different in the picture than I do in my picture. And the one thing about Nano Banana is I usually look exactly the same in both pictures.
Have you ever used the Skyward? I used it recently to try and generate some videos, and it did not do a very good job. I used ChatGPT to write my instructions because it had all my context, copied and pasted it, put it into Skyward to make me a couple short videos, and there were multiple limbs and arms out of each person, and so if you have a good video generation tool, let me know because I did not find one.
Well, you broke the ice on the big topic of the day, which is Sora 2's video generation tool. Have you been following any of that?
I have not, no.
Okay, well, first off, try VO3. VO3 does great 8-second video generation with sound. But Sora 2, you might have access to it. You have to download it on your phone as a separate app and then log into your ChatGPT account. But they're essentially, I would say, trying to compete with TikTok. So you can generate video in there, 10-second videos, but you take like a shot of yourself and it creates an image of you. It creates a avatar of you. You can share your avatar with your friends and they can share their avatar with you. There are certain celebrities who have released their avatars. So you're like prompt generating whatever you want in this digital entertainment world. Like you could do like you and I playing basketball and you jamming on me or like dunking on me, right? Or you could do you and your husband skiing the Swiss Alps. If you have the avatar of your best buddy. So I think that they are trying to get to where, like, imagine me and my friend doing this as a competitor to TikTok with 100% AI generated video. I think it's going to do amazing. It's already, like, downloaded a lot. I'm just not sure if it's going to be... I think maybe it might be the older crowd, like the Facebook crowd that it steals. I don't know that it's going to be Gen Z and Gen Alpha that go for it. And I would love to hear your... just with that vague idea of it, what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think my generation and the younger generations are probably not going to feel too inclined towards that. It reminds me of on Snapchat where you have your Bitmoji, and if someone else has a Bitmoji, you can go through and find little stickers that have you guys together. And the only people I see using those are people like my mom and millennials. So I think it's definitely more for that crowd. But I could totally see, like a large number of people wanting something like that. That's interesting though. I kind of find it a little creepy. I can't lie.
Well, you're not alone, and it is so realistic that it has definitely caused some concern around deepfakes and what deepfakes will like or will look like going forward. And they have videos of like John F. Kennedy giving the Martin Luther King speech from the 1960s, and it's, I mean, you can't tell it's not real, and it is. That's one of the use cases. People are playing with like historic speeches and having somebody else give the speech. It's
Yeah, the AI videos have gotten so bad on TikTok that the other day I saw this random video, didn't think anything of it, and then a few days later I saw a video of someone saying like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know this video was AI," and then pointed out why it was AI, and I totally glazed past it, didn't even realize. And it was the first time I actively realized that I saw something that was AI and didn't recognize it as AI. But I'm sure it's happened many times before. But um, it's all over TikTok, and there's a little tag on it that'll say AI generated content, but half the time it's not there. So it's getting really hard to decipher.
Yeah, I've noticed that. So if you generate a video, an image in Nano Banana, right, and like these companies steal stuff from people all the time. So if I circumvent their policies, sometimes I don't feel all that bad about it. But if I don't want the little Gemini star down in the bottom corner of it, I just snipping tool it and get rid of the little star. And so now it no longer has the AI identifier on it. So I mean, if somebody who's not even usually when I do that, it's because of the size of the image, not because I actually care if the Gemini star is there. I've always been transparent about using AI all the time, and I feel like the more transparent you are, the more people will trust you personally with the content you put out. But if somebody who doesn't want people to know something is AI generated, there's got to be very easy hacks around that, and that is it's semi concerning in the entertainment realm. It's a lot more concerning in the news feed realm and continued polarization of people. You know, if you can really put any kind of propaganda you want out there, and you can't tell whether it's real or it's not real. There's
And I have you seen recently? I saw there's like the first AI actress was booked
yes,
for a film or something. Yeah, I haven't looked too deep into it, but I saw it scrolling and I was like, "What is this?"
Tilly. Yes, she's cute and she looks real as can be. Right, probably 23, 24 years old. Caucasian brunette. Like I would not know. I heard it as I was going to bed last night on a podcast, and I was like, "Let me see. Is it like anime or is it like did they try to make it real?" And I image searched it, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that totally looks like a real person." So that is that company thinks that they're probably going to have a job for her in the near future, and they're probably not wrong. Somebody's going to experiment with that. That's
Well, I bet it's a heck of a lot cheaper than paying real people and feeding them and giving them breaks throughout the day. And I know it's happening in the music industry as well. There's an artist by some fake name that is an AI singer. It's like a real person that writes the songs, but they have AI sing it in something that I guess is similar to their voice, and they put out an entire album and are, they have streams. They're making money off of the album, and artists are not too happy about that an AI can get the same amount of streams as they do as a real person.
so. Let me throw a novel idea at you as to how I think this could be actually healthy for young people growing up. Now you're taking away the crapshoot. I could be a professional athlete. I could be a movie star. I could be a TikTok influencer, right? Like you're kind of saying not without learning some way or shape or form of leveraging technology, which means you're going to have a pretty good education. You're better off to aim for becoming educated as a software engineer, and then in your spare time, maybe because it won't cost you $1 million or a whole ton of your time, you will generate content that allows you to become a creator and leverage that as well. But the real money, like I loved it when Mark Zuckerberg was paying $100 million for people who with gigantic brains and huge educations. The only time we've ever seen those kind of salaries is with sports players. So while I admire athletes and the work that they put into it, and they're not getting disrupted. We're not going to start watching robots play sports over athletes, but these Hollywood types that are crying about the tens of millions of dollars that they're not getting per film, I honestly don't feel sorry for them at all. Like, it's time for this industry to get disrupted, and there's nothing wrong with telling kids that they have to get educated on how to leverage technology if they want to have a shot at creating entertainment in the future.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about it from that perspective, but I definitely see where you're coming from there. That's true.
Well, in a sense, like if you look at the DeMarco girls, or I don't know that I don't know their names, but the TikTok influencers that have or Mr. Beast, like if you actually watch one of the documentaries, like it already is that you pretty much need to be an expert at business and work 24/7 in order to do that. But I don't think that messaging is very clear to most young people, right? They just assume if you make some cute TikToks, you get enough followers that eventually you're going to be making millions of dollars and moving out to Los Angeles, and that hasn't been true. But this is going to be a whole different layer of disruption, and it's going to be very clear that if you don't understand how to use the technology, are not going to have a snowball's chance in he hockey stick at getting into these industries. There will be niches where, like hyper niches, where people want just human created stuff, but that's going to become a much smaller pigeonhole to get through.
Yeah, it's changing stuff for sure. It's so, every time I talk to you, my wheels just start spinning because there's things I've never even thought of before.
Well, what are you hearing from kids about AI? That's one of the things that I always love to do. Like when you go into these elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, like what's the sentiment you're? Because when I talk to my daughter, she just kind of rolls her eyes about it. Some of her friends seem like they use ChatGPT for homework help, but it's not really on their radar as like a major game changer.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I don't really hear them talking about it much, and if I do, it's in the context of AI help me do my homework and write my paper, or I use Google, the app where you take a picture and the AI response comes up. Kids love that for their homework, and I can't lie, I've used it a few times as well. It's pretty helpful. But overall, like, I don't think they're thinking about AI as long term as some of us might be.
Yeah, it's interesting. My nephew's getting ready to get his nursing degree from IU, and he's looking at does he want to go to medical school or NP, nurse practitioner school. And I was like, you should really explore like what schools, and I even looked it up for him and sent him some information. What schools are integrating nurse practitioner or doctor with AI? And his answer was, I don't want to work with AI. I like that doesn't interest me at all. I want to work with people. And I was like, well, I'm not sure you're gonna have a choice at some point in time. There's nothing wrong with having, but I mean, it was just pointless to continue to try to convince him of it because to him, I think AI means not doing human stuff and replacing humans with AI and just sitting around and playing with a computer all day, which in some industries and in some jobs that will be the case that you are more of a programmer, but I don't think in healthcare that's going to be the case in the very near future at all.
No, and I think that's kind of the perspective is like it seems like something that's maybe out of touch or as everyone likes to say, our generation is the woke generation, but it is true that we think about things a lot differently. I would venture even to say that we're a more conscious generation in a lot of ways. We think about things a little differently. And so I think a lot of our generation too is also looking at, we see the impacts of it on the environment. We see protests in Indianapolis about the Google data centers. And so I think a lot of my generation is thinking about that as well. I see, people posting things constantly of people my age of how every time you put a prompt into ChatGPT, you're pouring out a water bottle. And so that climate change awareness and stuff like that, I think impacts a lot of my generation's willingness to adapt AI as well.
So I did some research on that because you brought the same thing up last time we talked. And the median number of prompts, the median prompt length that is run by a human being takes up about 24 kilowatt hours of 0.24 kilowatt hours of energy, which is equal to 9 seconds of watching TV. So every time you prompt, it's like watching 9 seconds of TV. But 1 minute of TikTok equals 2.6 grams of CO2. All right, and that average amount of TikTok time that your generation spends a day, and I'd say this is a low ball, is 48 minutes. There's more CO2 being produced by TikTok use than there is by AI. So there is, and not that we're not all generationally hypocrites, but there's a bit of hypocrisy in saying we're worried about the environmental impact, but we're more than happy to scroll TikTok 6 hours a day, regardless of that environmental impact.
That's really interesting. Yeah, you need to make a meme now and start posting it so that everyone can get fact checked.
But
That's really interesting, and that meme is everywhere, and I hear people saying it all the time. My best friend, every time I use ChatGPT and she hears me use it, she's like, "Oh, go ahead and pour out a water bottle." It's a very vast consensus amongst people. But I definitely spend more than 48 minutes on TikTok a day, and that's kind of my perspective on it. I've always said it's like I get on my phone constantly. We drive our cars constantly. I have a TV running in the background while I'm doing something. We're always using technology in some way, shape, or form, contributing to hurting our environment in some way, shape, or form just by existing. I think one person stopping their use of ChatGPT it's not going to make a vast impact. People are going to continue to use it. It's going to continue to be a part of businesses and our life moving forward. Your single person stopping your use of AI is not going to make an impact, unfortunately, in my opinion, on environmental factors or whatever the reasoning is.
I honestly think, and again, it's just not framed properly. Is I do think that there is good argument for the environmental impact when you start talking about agentic systems, and the way they're measuring the efficacy of these agentic systems is like, well, now Claude can run for 30 hours on its own, testing things and doing things. So if you're just running a bunch of AI in the background, so the marketing thing is easiest because we're both kind of in marketing, right? So I've heard a couple of people say, well, think about this. Rather than one Instagram campaign, you could run 100 Instagram campaigns a month, get the metrics on them, and figure out which one works. Well, if just because you are spitballing nonstop AI inference and using tokens, then yes, you are burning through tons of energy and tons of water, most of the time for needlessly or just for your company's benefit. And that environmental impact, like just recklessly sending AI agents out in the world to experiment nonstop until we figure out how to do that in an energy efficient way, I would agree should be a concern.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Do you see regulations or laws in the future around that topic, or do you think that's something that we're not really even thinking about yet?
I mean, California just passed their AI bill. They tried last year to pass Senate bill. I don't even remember the name of it. Gavin Newsom ended up vetoing it because it was a little too restrictive. I think I think those that want regulation got a win when the big beautiful bill pulled out the part that said that the federal government would be the only ones to regulate it and states couldn't individually do that. And you and I have discussed this before. That I'm very torn. I mean, I'm kind of a constitutional Republican in the sense that I firmly believe states should have the right to govern whatever they want, however they want. But the only thing about that is I do think it's kind of an arms race with China, and there are existential implications of AI development. And so if we slow that down by having a whole bunch of different regulations in different states, the only people that really get hurt by that the most are like startups and really people who are trying to get off the ground. So there's not too many things where I'll say I just don't know the answer or have much of an opinion on what the best way to do it is. But this is one. Like I'm torn on how to, and regulation and law has never really been my cup of tea anyway. Nate, my boss, he's down in legislators all the time advocating for different laws in healthcare and this and that. I guess I'm more of an economist in that standpoint. I do believe that a free market and capitalism and not letting big companies dominate a capitalistic market is the way to progressively move forward as a society. How to legislate that is outside of my realm of expertise or brain power.
It'll be interesting to see how it progresses.
It will be. It will be. And I mean, I am reading a very interesting book right now called Breakneck, which is written by a gentleman who was Hong Kong born but raised between Philadelphia and Canada. He was in China during COVID, and his hypothesis on the progression both in education and business is that China is kind of in their industrial period, like we were back when we were building railroads and highways and doing all those things, and that we in the 1960s, because we recklessly did some of that and we did cause some damage that needed to be regulated, but we shifted in the 60s and 70s to a very, very legislative or litigious society, and that 2/3 of our Congress is made up of people with law degrees. Most of our past presidents have law degrees, and so we have a tendency to tie up progress with the legalities of it to a point that may hurt us, because China is in that, like, hell, they're putting up like more than one nuclear power facility a year, and it in the United States, even to go from idea to actually putting it up, it takes 10 years to build a nuclear facility. So if power is a big deal, right, and getting to fission and leveraging power that is not going to drain our grid 100%, nuclear is a big deal. And if we're dragging our feet on that and thinking about 10 years from now, OpenAI is already looking at building hundreds of billions of dollars worth of data centers all over the place. I don't know how we're going to keep up with all that, and I do think electrical engineering or anything that has to do with power, like, I would highly encourage students. That is a field that you will be able to make a very good living and do a lot of work on for many, many years to come.
Yeah, definitely. And we have a really good electrical apprenticeship right in Lafayette.
There you go. Who's that with?
What's the acronym? I'll forget.
Is it WIN?
No, it's that training center that's right behind Ivy Tech.
Oh, not
To the
Great
local
Olympic
1018? Is that it?
I'm not sure. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Oh no, I've got the business card here. The Lafayette Electrical Joint Apprenticeship and Training Committee.
Big shout out to them.
Yes, big shout out to them.
That is too cool. Hey, I have another theory I want to throw at you, because I always love your perspective. So, in Silicon Valley right now, there is this idea, comparing China to there is this idea that really aggressive tech companies are shifting to this mentality of 996. Have you heard of 996?
I have not.
It's the idea of we are in such a robust time of growth that people should be working from 9 in the morning till 9 at night, 6 days a week. It's like 24-hour churn, more or less. And the theory I want to throw at you is I'm not sure. So obviously the naysayers are like, this is just the tech companies pushing Americans to go away from work-life balance and to exploit them and encourage them to work their butts off so that they can make a big profit as a company, right? I'm not sure that that's the case. I think that it might be the same thing that I'm experiencing on a much smaller level, which is this is such an exciting time that, like, I have trouble going to sleep at night because I have so many ideas running around in my head, and I get out of bed before my alarm goes off because I'm so excited to go work on it. I have a feeling that some of these people in Silicon Valley might be so excited at the progression of technology that they're churning nonstop because they want to.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's the case for sure. From my perspective and, from an IO psychology background, what the current trends show is that we're kind of moving away from work-life balance and moving more towards work-life blending. And that can cause issues as well as have benefits for it. And I think when you look, most organizations are top-down. And so the people at the top, they're the ones that are excited and they want to keep going. But the people towards the bottom maybe aren't as connected to the mission, and it's a job for them. So they don't feel that same drive to go towards that work-life blending, and they still want that balance. And so I think it really depends on your position within the organization and how your organization makes you feel connected to the mission. And that could be something that becomes really important within organizations, is really working to make sure everyone feels connected to the organization and the mission and the purpose, maybe so that they feel inclined to contribute more hours or be as excited as they are.
I could not agree more. That is so well said. And I think that there needs to be a reward. So one of the things that always bugged me, I've known some engineers over my lifetime, chemical engineers, all kinds of engineers, right? And let's just say you work for a big company like uh, Eli Lilly, and you come up with a drug patent. Like, you, as the scientist who came up with that drug patent, don't get rich for the rest of your life. Lilly makes billions of dollars on it, and you might get a bonus or a little bit of a raise, but you're not seeing residual income and like really getting rewarded for your work. I think as we learn how to create more productivity for any company, unless we just want to step out on our own, and AI does more enable that. I not as much as I think. I fear that too many people are going to try to become entrepreneurs and think that AI is going to make them one and run their back into their business overnight. That's not exactly true, right? But if in a company sense your productivity and your tool use of AI is increasing the revenue, there should be some form of a profit sharing model that allows you to benefit from that financially as well.
Yeah.
996. I mean, I another thing that I think about that when you were talking about work-life blend, right? I found AI really pushes me towards that because if you are using AI and you're really critically thinking about how you're using AI, I disagree that it dissipates your critical thinking. I think it changes it, and it sometimes exacerbates it because you're thinking about so many things so fast. Things are just continuously coming at you that I find myself throughout the day like getting brain fog to the point where I'm like, okay, I need to take a break because I just can't. Either I'm going to go onto autopilot and trust everything it says, which is not a good way to produce anything with AI, or I need to step away and go cook or go for a walk or go hang out with my family. And like, I'm finding that my remote days are my most productive ones because I will break it up into like 4 hour chunks where I start off real early in the morning, and then once I get a little bit of brain fog, I then go do some. I'll go cook my meals for the week, and that takes 3 or 4 hours, and then I'll come back, and then I might take a nap, hang out with my family, and then I'll come back a little bit. So it actually ends up being like 3 4 hour periods or 3 3 hour periods. It's a pretty robust day, but it's not like start at one time and end at another time. It's very broken up.
And that type of flexibility is, shown to be pretty beneficial in the workplace. Employees really like the opportunity to have autonomy over their schedules. I think where, the work-life blending becomes a problem and, where people are seeing negative impacts of it is, you have Teams on your phone or your email's always on your phone and you never disconnect from answering messages or, your people expect you to work till 9 p.m. on, special events or special cases and stuff, and everything just starts to kind of blur together and there's no separation of personal time, work time, or whatever else you may need. And so that work time is really starting to infiltrate its way into the entire day for a lot of people. And at my previous employer, I saw this a lot, where people are so busy, they have so much on their plates, that it's hard to turn it off, and it almost feels necessary to just keep answering those emails, or something comes through at 8:30. Oh, I'll just respond to this real quick. Whereas before, when we didn't have that direct access to our work all the time, it wasn't really an issue.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And the flip side of this, and I see this from some people that I talk to that have kind of rose-colored glasses on, I think, is that some people, when they look at the productivity gains of AI, right, they're almost assuming that every employee they have has the type of attitude you have, which is an aggressive go-getter who's always looking to grow and learn, right? But and maybe call me a pessimist. I would say that's maybe 30% of most workforces. Another 30% is going to put in their honest day's pay, period, right? But they don't really want to do a whole lot outside of that. And another 30 to 40% is going to get away with as much as they possibly can and do as little as they possibly can to get a paycheck. And so once you start introducing these productivity tools, right, if you're looking at it from the business owner standpoint, like how do you make sure that when you give kids or when you give people a tool that makes them more productive, that they're actually using the time that they just bought back by leveraging AI in a way that is beneficial to the company and not just watching YouTube shorts or scrolling TikTok half the day now.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's interesting because for smaller businesses, smaller companies, maybe ones that don't have as much direct oversight over everyone within their company, um, how would they even know? Yeah, it's going to cause a lot of ambiguity.
Yeah, Nate brought it up the other day, and I've been the one who's been really spearheading AI in our company, and so I just always assumed that he knows that I'm the same kind of person you are. Like, okay, I may learn how to do things a lot faster, but I'm going to move on to something else because that I've wanted to do for a long time that's still related to the company with that time that I got back. But he did bring up the other day. He's like, yeah, but not everybody's like that. So like, what? How do I know if everybody starts using AI that they're not spending more time watching videos on YouTube because they have AI cranking out AI slop too? I mean, that has become a really trending term right now for the people. I've always argued like the whole cheating thing in school. Like the kids that are going to use AI to cheat, most of them were probably going to use some other form of cheating to begin with anyway, right? But and it's and I always said then you're going to quickly identify that they're leveraging the tools too much because you're going to get AI slop. You're starting to see the same thing in the workplace. If I'm answering every email with a Chat GPT or every paper I write, like I just get the general idea of what they want, and so yeah, here's my project idea, and you're not really iterating with it and using it as a brainstorming partner. Like it's starting to come to the surface that a lot of this is just crap. It's just out of the box AI, and there's even been some studies that show that employees who identify another employee as doing that think much less of them afterwards and trust them less as a colleague.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. Yeah, I can automatically see it and I use AI to write my own emails, so I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I don't use AI for every email, but there's definitely emails that people get from me that were helped with AI. But when I see an email that is very clearly written with AI, no edits, I do lose maybe a little bit of respect for that person, or I might look at them a little differently next time. And it's not a conscious thing, it's just oh, okay, I see that. But the AI slop, it's funny. The other day I was scrolling on Facebook and I saw a healthcare worker that I know reposted this big long thing about, how, what it sounds like to crack a rib on a person, or just kind of how that is as a healthcare person to deal in those situations. And this person claimed to be a nurse, but in the post it says, patient name, their age, the room number they were in, exactly what ailment they had. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no way this is real. This is AI slop. No healthcare worker would post the name, age, and room number of a patient. That is a huge violation. And so, I look in the comments and everyone's like, this is so true, gave me chills. And a person did not write this. It's not even real.
And if AI wrote it and used real patient information to do it, they just set their company up for a big lawsuit.
Exactly.
That's the other side of not checking you. But the exponential, this is kind of cool. What I am finding is the more that you use one tool, right, and it really gets to know you, the more you can rely on it to answer an email for you. Like it used to be, I had to, if you sent me something and I copied and pasted ChatGPT and said write a response to Kimba, I would be like, okay, that's a good outline of like a crap email that's really generic. And now have to go in and fix this. And sometimes I'd be like, I don't even know if it's worth doing that. I could have just answered it in the amount of time. But now it's pretty on voice for what I would have to say. Aside from removing the M dashes, there's very rarely, I might change the last sentence. I don't always like the last, like the call to action that AI likes to stick in there. I usually change that. But aside from that, it definitely is much more reflective of how I would answer an email if I was to do it personally.
Yeah, definitely. And, I've noticed there's some repetition in what I do, or the same types of emails I have to send out all the time. And, if I just, it can very easily repeat that without even giving it a ton of context of like, hey, this is for a boot camp for this purpose. It just knows and remembers that this is what we're doing. And that's been really helpful for me.
That's cool. Do you see any of the schools starting to implement AI tools like Magic School or any of the tools that have been created for actual like K through 12 schools and for teachers to use? Have you come across any teachers or classrooms that are using AI tools?
I haven't directly been in a classroom where I've seen it being used, but I see the Magic School company. They've been at a lot of conferences that we've been at as well, so we've mingled with them a bit. But I do see a lot more of those companies at the conferences that we attend. And so I know they're talking to schools, they're getting them interested, and so I could definitely see within the next couple of years here that happening a lot more. Because I think those companies are really just now starting to get out in front of the schools and try and get them involved.
Did you read the lesson plan I sent you on evals for ninth graders?
I
LLM
skimmed it.
evals?
I won't lie. I didn't read all the way through it, but I skimmed it.
That was Magic School.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have access to their platform. So that was a transcript from an hour and 45 minutes of two total data nerds, like way over my head, talking about how to do evals for LLMs. I gave that to Magic School and said, generate a lesson plan so that I can teach this to ninth graders with no computer science background. And I was like, I was amazed. Hell, I understood it a lot better after I read through it than I did when I listened to the conversation.
That's awesome. No, Maddie definitely mentioned, she was like, that is awesome. And she thinks it'd be a great one to use during one of the 4 seminars rather than putting it as a project, just because it already is like almost an hour. She said it was perfect.
Cool. I take no credit. I am thankful to you guys because I have been talking to Carissa from Magic School. I'm very impressed with it. They gave me access to it, and I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm not. I am going to be teaching Walla, so I can start programming that in there. But it's hard to figure out use cases for that are a little bit outside of your scope of work when you're first diving into a tool. For me, I want to use like marketing is where I go. My go-to like. How could I use this for marketing? And then I start to build on that to, okay, what else could I use this for? I just saw, I won't go back there, but I just saw so 48 minutes of TikTok use is the equivalent of 600 prompts. I forgot I had that one written down too. So just to go back to
I
your
probably
TikTok
spend
gaming.
I won't lie. I spend at least 2 hours a day on TikTok.
So you can move away from the little water bottles and set a big jug of water next to you when you're on TikTok, so you can just continuously pour that out as you're scrolling your TikTok feeds.
I'll just turn on the faucet. Save myself
There
some
you
time.
go. Which I do for the cat all the time because it likes to drink out of the faucet. That's probably a waste of water too. But I like to give you a hard time because I know you can take it. But I think the whole point that you bring up is it depends on what we're looking at. This takes us into ambient listening devices too, right? And I think you said this to me initially when I was talking about how we would need ambient listening devices to pick up the context of what we're doing during the day. And you were like, our phones have been doing that for a long time. What are we so worried about?
I know it's listening because every time I mention something I want, Facebook starts showing me ads.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, we're coming near the end of the hour, and I want to be respectful of your time. So I always ask the same question. I've asked you this question before, but it's a tradition. I turned that question into the traditional end question for this podcast, which is, as we start to move towards a world where technology is dominating a lot of domains, everything from the Department of Defense to workforce development, how do we encourage our young women to explore leadership roles within that paradigm? Due to Wi-Fi issues, we lost Kimba. However, you can hear her answer to my question and many more AI-related issues in one of our most popular episodes. Episode 19, The AI Native Generation, How a 22-year-old is Bridging Education and Industry. That episode was released on July 21st of this year. While we weren't on YouTube yet, you can hear those episodes on Spotify, Apple, and iHeartRadio podcast networks. So, until next Saturday, ciao. And remember, We should be preparing students for their future, not our past.